we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll just check in who's here by the first agenda item.
Jesse is stuck at the loading screen.
Does she have updates? Because there was a lot of updates last week.
It's possible. She said it was just kind of spinning, so she wasn't sure if it was waiting on someone to admit her or if it was just loading still.
No, it's not an admission thing. We're getting everyone in quickly.
Good afternoon, folks.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this Zoom is actually kicking out anybody with less than 3 monitors, so.
Yeah, I'm making you co-host as well. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair is also co-host.
All right, excellent. All right, I see quite a few LNC members, so Karen, whenever you're ready, we can go ahead and start the recording, get this party started.
Okay, it has been recording, but I clipped that out before I load it. So are we calling to order at 7:04 Eastern?
Yes.
Okay, let me just get that down. All right, even though I'm going to do the formal roll call now. Mr. Nikela?
Present?
Mr. Dar?
Present.
I am present. Mr. Redpath?
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Bust?
Present.
Mr. Malagon?
Present.
Mr. Dassing? I do not believe he's here. Mr. Ford?
Here.
One moment, I'm just marking Mr. Dassing. Mr. Nana? Okay, Mr. Nana's not here. Mr. Bracco? Ms. Cowart? I know she's trying. Ms. Hallesley?
I'm here.
Mr. Hirsch?
I'm here.
Mr. Johnson?
I'm here.
Mr. Weir?
Here.
Okay, and I also noticed that Richard Brown is here if you should need him, Mr. Chair. So who we are missing is Mr. Vincent. Oh, I didn't call out Kathy. Ms. Januszkiewicz, you're present, correct?
I am here.
Okay, so we are missing Mr. Vincent, Mr. Watkins, Mr. Dassing. We know that Ms. Hayes will not be attending. Mr. Nana, Mr. Bracco, Mr. Cowart. I mean, Ms. Cowart. So, for regionals, Ms. Hallesley will be sitting in for Ms. Hayes. Mr. Hirsch will be sitting in for Mr. Nana. Region 5 is unrepresented.
Copy that. All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. We'll go ahead and move on to public comment.
Point of order, Madam Secretary, please note that the Region 2 rep is here.
I didn't get you?
You did not.
Because I already noted you as here because you're with the fabulous and not nail polish. Yes, Mr. McGee is
Absolutely
in fact
fabulous.
is here and fabulous.
There you go.
I don't know if you might
Much
have
appreciated.
marked it already, but I don't believe you called Region 1 in the roll call.
That is correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's because I did that pre-roll call and kind of messed me up. So Mr. Chatterton is in fact present, as is Mr. Lamb.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Has anybody not been called who's here? All right, if not, then we'll go ahead and roll into public comment. 10 minutes, 2 minutes each per speaker. Go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to be recognized.
I'm on a cell phone. How do I do that?
I would also like to be recognized.
Okay, I'll let Mr. Hinkle go first, then Mr. Fishman. Mr. Hinkle, go ahead.
Thank you very much. For those who don't know, I'm former LNC chair 2010 to 2012. We started the project of buying an office building in Alexandria. And we obviously eventually did that. A couple of things that I don't know if has been brought up in the past, but some of the reasons why we wanted to do this, of course, is have a presence in Washington, D.C. so we could do some lobbying in Congress. That probably has fallen short on its objective, but it is what it is. Item number 2 is when you have a building like this, you have an asset. And when you have an asset, you can get loans. So for example, if we have an emergency for ballot access in New York or Illinois, we can borrow money based on the asset that we have. One of the things that suggested I heard is that the office basically has been remained vacant for the last 2 years. One of the questions I have is why wasn't it rented out to another nonprofit? I don't know what the rental market is like for small office buildings like that, but I'm guessing $4,000 or $5,000 a month. So potentially $50,000 to $60,000 a year in income that should have been realized, but it wasn't. And I understand that the going price is about $650,000, when I believe we spent over $850,000. So in 10, 12 years, the value of that property has declined by $200,000. I don't believe it, not for a second. So obviously, I'm speaking very much in favor of keeping the building and opposed to selling it. And of course, there's the FEC requirements that when I talked to Bill Hall, former counsel for the LNC, said absolutely no way. The only way you could sell that building is to buy another building or lease. So my 2 cents, I wish you please do not get rid of the building, the David F. Nolan building. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkle. And I will give an update on the building later on in the call. And it should answer a lot of your questions and comments. Next up, Mr. Fishman, and then Mr. Seebeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also rise to address the building issue. In 2019, when I was executive director of the Libertarian Party, we were going through a financial crisis at the time. And I looked at all sorts of methods that we could make money, including which was renting out space in the building and possibly using funds that we raised into the building to invest and buy another building with the idea that we would be able to profit from that. Pursuits with lawyers and the FEC consulate said that is specifically not allowed. The LNC cannot profit from a building. If we rent out space in the building, we can only collect enough to cover our mortgage, but we could not profit from it. So to answer Mr. Hinkle's question, we couldn't have charged $4,000 a month because the mortgage, or rather at this point in time, the property taxes are not equal to $4,000 a month. The reason the FEC has these rules is because it would be very easy to get around campaign finance restrictions, which limits a person's donation to the general fund to $41,000 right now. If you were allowed to buy and sell real estate, because I could buy a building and then sell it 3 years later at a profit of 1,000%. And that would allow a wealthy donor to suddenly contribute money well in excess of what they could have given to the party specifically. The FEC law is specific about that. You cannot profit from buildings. Money in the building fund must stay in the building fund. And I know that there's some talk about the fact that the money was collected, but put into the general fund. Prior to my being the executive director, we did not establish the segregated funds, but we earmarked all the donations in Razor's Edge. So the data is there as to who specifically gave stuff. Talking with Mr. Hinkle, and I also spoke with David Blau, who was the secretary when they started raising money that was gathered for the building fund, was specifically solicited to go into the building fund. Whether it went into a segregated fund or not, the FEC requires a party to respect the wishes of the donor. So money that went into the building fund that people thought was going into the building fund must remain in the building
We're at
fund.
time.
Thank you, Mr. Malgon. And if you wouldn't mind keeping time for me so I don't forget. Thank you, Mr. Fishman. Mr. C, 2 minutes. Start there.
Yes, thank you all. Appreciate this. I'm speaking to you as the former chair of the platform committee, as well as a member of the previous bylaws committee. When asked the LNC, and I'm putting this on record, to please pass the motion regarding the reappointment of the bylaws committee, which is up for discussion at this meeting. It is the intention of, from my understanding of Ms. Harless, to get the previous report for the bylaws committee be heard at the convention, because it was not heard in Washington. As speaking as the former platform committee chair, I make a similar pledge for the platform committee, even though that's not up for discussion at this time. I feel that the work of those two committees should be respected and honored. The delegates should have those proposals heard. And I think it's the best interest of the party, as well as for the membership to hear them, as well as to get our convention prep going in a fast manner for those areas. Just don't have to worry about so much about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seebeck. Is there anybody else seeking to speak for public comment? All right. If not, we'll go right into our first discussion, which is a Convention Oversight Committee update. Mr. Ford, are you in the house?
Hold on a second. Well, interestingly enough, I've just booked travel just a few minutes ago. On the 16th, I'll be going out to Grand Rapids for the first site tour. In which case, we're going to have meetings set up with Experience Grand Rapids, as well as the hotel and as well as convention center. What's interesting about this area is the three groups that we're going to be dealing with are separate, but working closely in conjunction. So the first priority I have out there is we're going to be having discussions about an existing discount program that we are hoping to amplify and afford to convention attendees, which will offer discounts at area restaurants as well as attractions, as well as give a really finished look at the area so that people attending convention can save some money, but also utilize whatever time they have, particularly if they're doing it as a family vacation. We have entered into discussions about extending the number of hotel rooms. By definition, of course, that's confidential, but the facility is spectacular. And I'm going from pictures right now, but looking forward very much to having an aggressive business session followed by, and this is important, this will address some of Mr. Seebeck's concerns. Of course, I can't speak to the staffing of the various committees. What I will say is that I've had conversations with Ms. Harlows, who's seen fit to join us at, I think, all of our Convention Oversight Committee meetings. We've had in-depth conversations about our bylaws and our reporting responsibilities, our purchasing responsibilities, and how we have to conduct ourselves. But we've also spoken to the priority of having platform and bylaws really lead off the convention. And we're going to be working aggressively to make sure that due respect is given to those committees' output as a priority in the convention. And that's not me taking shots at any of the former conventions. They were what they were, and things happened. But for Mr. Seebeck and anyone else's concerns, we will be focusing heavily on the business section of that. Now, the committee has been meeting every other week already. We've broken down into about 4 committees: IT, a speakers committee, logistics committee that's going to handle all the infrastructure needs, amongst other things. And we're already having conversations about the type of meals that we're going to be offering. We're talking about things like having a general meal plan. We're working on it. We're in early stages, but we're working on that. In addition to meals that will be conducted with speakers. So looking to make it as aggressively priced, reasonably affordable event as possible, offering people lots of events. We've also, and I'll just give a tease on this because we're going to be meeting again this week. We've also started a committee to work on both the site of the 28th convention, also, and I'm opening the can of worms, Mr. Chair, when I bring this up, but the committee has formed a working group that a number of folks are going to be involved in. Some real legends in the party, Mr. Dosbach, Mr. Redpath is going to be joining us in our next meeting, Karen Harlows, myself, and a few other people from the existing committee to talk about and analyze and investigate, dare I say, moving the presidential year earlier in the process. Now, no decision's been made. The decision ultimately will be made if, at the time the LNC considers it. And we're at really the stage where we're starting to discuss the issues we need to discuss about moving the date up. And a lot of conversations have already been had about everything from ballot access to logistics, to travel, to all of that. And so it's very much a blank slate right now. But I want to let the committee know and LNC members know that that is going to be a conversation. And I say that because this will be really the one time we've had a chance to do this now and in the near future. And, you know, the plans were made early on to have a conventional convention date, if you will, for DC. And so that opted us out of that. This is the one chance we have to do it, and we do it right. And we've already got kind of like I said, a lot of institutional experience already involved in the conversations to go over what the advantages might be, what the pitfalls may be. So that's a broad look. We will be having a site visit at the in-person LNC meeting in May of the facilities, because there really are facilities. There's at least based on pictures, and I'll be able to report more anecdotally to folks if they want to reach out to me. But it really, the hotel is beautiful. There are a number of great restaurant opportunities, and again, family activities within a close distance of the convention center itself is a full freestanding convention center with a theater attached, and there are adequate hotel spaces for all of us. So I think we're off to a great start. Finally, the theme contest is up and running, and I would ask people to participate in that. We had a bunch of people weigh in with themes, and this is a great way to support the party and also take a hand in how we're going to represent ourselves in Grand Rapids. So, I remain available to members and to officers and libertarians alike for input and conversations on just how we're going to proceed. But we made a lot of progress in the first month or so, and we're on a war footing. We want this to be a profitable, highly focused event that speaks to liberty, but most importantly, speaks to the business of the party. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that update, Pat. Is there anything the committee needs from the LNC at this time?
Patience. Patience is a virtue. We've got a lot to consider in the next few months. I would argue that the theme contest is sort of paramount now. Get people involved. Now, we all know that it's a fundraising tool, but it's fun and it'll engage people in something positive. And when we get that theme going, we will have merch available right away for people to get into the spirit of things. It seems like it's a long way out, but it's not. We're a year and a month, so we're going to be closely listening to people's concerns and issues, and we're going to do the very best we can. Like I said, we're off to a great start. Mr. McGee has already invested as a member of the committee. He's focusing on I'll put the word out, so he'll be the target. But he'll.
Thanks, Pat.
I'm here for you, buddy. But has already spent a great deal of time focusing on sites for 2028. So we've really got 3 tracks going on simultaneously. We've got obviously Grand Rapids. We've got the conversation about when to have presidential conventions. And then, of course, we've got the actual site selection for 28. So there's a lot to do. We're going to be staffing up the committee additionally as the year goes along. So, but right now, folks, if you can get out there and support that theme contest, that's good for everybody.
Awesome. Karen Ann?
Yes, I had a question for Mr. Ford, and also if the committee didn't mind me adding 2 things, I'll add the 2 things in the beginning. I have already started assembling my teller team. Anyone who's listening who would like to serve again or serve for the first time, please get in touch with me. It's never too early to assemble that. And I spoke with one of the very experienced credentials committee people from last time to work on a manual for the credentials committee, because that's always really tough for people going in. But the question for Mr. Ford and Chair Nikela is, has there been further discussion on the tour, since so much of the convention oversight committee probably will not be able to be there on Friday? I'm trying to change my plans, but it all depends upon my employer.
So I'm talking to Hannah about that. She's working with the convention people to see if we can do this Saturday or Sunday and schedule some time for the whole LNC to do a tour. So we're waiting to hear back. And we're thinking Friday we may do a social, so that's TBD, but probably Sunday it's looking like. So
Okay.
either we'll do something, Saturday or Sunday, but we should know next week.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Anybody else? Awesome. Well, thanks, Pat. Thanks everybody that's on the COC for all your hard work, and I look forward to Grand Rapids and checking out the site. All right. Next is Audit Committee update, Miss Yanuskevich.
Okay, hello, everyone. As a reminder, the audit committee is composed of myself, Rich Bowen, and Doug Nebel. Mr. Bowen was elected chair. We generally meet once a week and will continue to do so while the audit for 2024 is underway. The engagement letter was signed by the chair to hire Lehman Flynn Villaro CPAs to conduct the 2024 audit. This is the same firm we used in last year for 2023. The audit's well underway and is proceeding smoothly. The audit committee met with the auditor to discuss the situation with the payments to Freedom Calls. As a result, he will be doing some additional testing related to Freedom Calls and some other vendor payments. And we hope to at least have a draft of the audit sometime in May. Anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Mr. Chair, do you want me to just go straight into the Kennedy Victory Fund update?
Yeah. Well,
I don't mind, but it was a little bit of a different order, but since Kathy's already on the mic, that's smoother, but we do need to go back to the COC policy manual update.
Oh.
Oh, that's weird because it was okay.
No, I think go ahead and do that because the Kennedy Victory Fund report will go nicely with the Treasurer Financial Review right after it. So let's go back.
Okay.
All right, cool. So next is the delegate allocations update and policy manual change, Ms. Harlow?
No, the COC policy manual update. The delegate one was later.
Do I have the wrong version of this agenda? I must have a different.
I can
Number
put it,
2.
Yeah, I can put it up on the screen. I'm trying to bring up the OneNote for some reason. The SharePoint is being a little slow right now. But the agenda number 2 was supposed to be the COC policy manual change. So we're just going back to number 2.
Okay.
And I note that Mr. Dassing just came in, so let me just mark him as present. I don't want to highlight, but there's text. Okay, it was just. Why is it doing that? One moment. There we go. Okay. I'll move it and then I'll speak to it if there is a second. I would move to amend section 1.04 of the policy manual, which is the main title is committee scope and responsibilities, but specifically subsection 8. I have the markup on the screen, so I'm only going to read the changed portions. It says the COC shall make recommendations for convention sites. I added and dates to make that clear. That kind of dovetails with what Mr. Ford said. That's always been understood, but it's better to be clear. Sorry, I'm speaking to it. To the LNC, but the LNC shall.
Real quick, a second to this.
Second.
Well, I was making the motion, but if there's a second right away, then that helps because I can speak to it as I'm doing it. Then it says, but the LNC shall choose the site. I made it consistent to say they'll choose both. Again, that's been the practice. It's just better to make it clear. And then moving on to number 3, it says recommend for approval by the executive committee or the LNC major elements such as contracts over $3,000, the convention budget, and the convention program. It used to say including keynote speakers. I would like to strike out keynote. It has been our practice. There were some exceptions made last term that did cause controversy. We're not getting into that, just noting it. But the convention before that, every single speaker was approved, including breakfast speakers, and even up to the end, last term, every speaker was approved. So I think we need to strike out keynote. That's very subjective, and we don't want to be able to elude approval just by calling it something else. So speakers. And then number 4, and it said ensure all contracts with vendors go through a transparent bidding process. There's some contracts that are insignificant. They could be a $500 contract. Do we really, I think, to me, I think the intent was always significant contracts. And since the LNC has to approve contracts over $3,000, that seemed like a natural number to have to go through a bidding process as well. Like if we engaged a photocopy vendor to do copies of the bylaws report and it was 2,000, do we really need to run all over town and get bids for that? Now, maybe the LNC does, because that's what it says right now. But I think putting in a dollar value maximizes our time and ensures, though, that the important contracts go through a transparent bidding process. So that is the motion.
Thank you, Karen Ann. Mr. Malagon, I recognize.
I'm ready for discussion. I assume it was moved and seconded. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, I would just encourage my colleagues on the LNC to vote this down. Particularly, I don't like the striking of keynote and the amount in regards to contracts and vendors and all of that. The EPCC is working closely with, well, I'm working with the chair, Ms. Yanuskavich, and also with the LNC chair, Mr. Nikela, to put forward proposals for contracts and vendors and anyone that does any of that as a member of the EPCC. So I think this is within our purview. We'll be making these recommendations for Grand Rapids. So I plan on voting this down, and I encourage the LNC to do the same. We're going to be recommending some changes. The 3 of us will be making some recommendations for changes toward the EPCC. Then we can kind of workshop it there. We can name people that are. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Yanuskavich, the LNC chair, and I will be working to correct some anomalies and inconsistencies in the PM, at which point we will bring forward those recommendations to the EPCC for any additional recommendations or commentary, at which point we will, in a hopefully united front, present those recommendations to the LNC for Grand Rapids. This isn't something that needs to be done now. Thank you.
Ms. Yanuskavich?
You're on mute.
Muted.
You're muted, Kathy.
Okay, sorry, Boomer. Ms. Harless, I'm wondering if you discuss this amount with the executive director who has knowledge of the staff expenditures for the DC convention?
I know, Ms. Yanuskavich, but I can address, I think some of that I'm going to address in addressing Mr. Malagon's comments, but the direct answer to your question is no.
Okay, well, there were a number of printing and other expenditures that were over $3,000. Some of them were last minute, some of them were emergencies. So I'm not sure if you intend to cover all of those types of circumstances or just contracts that are negotiated with a paper contract. Like if we need printing for a binder, for the binders, we're not going to get a contract. We might shop around, but it's not going to be a contract. So I'm wondering if that is the type of thing you intend to cover in addition to contracts.
Ms. Yanuskavich, I would go with the historical interpretation and the strict wording. It's written contracts.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you wish to?
Yes, I would, but if anyone else wishes to speak before me, since I've already spoken.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I don't think vendors that are one-off for the convention, it's just my personal opinion, and of course the LNC will decide, is an EPCC matter. Certainly continuing contracts are, such as fundraising contractors and the like, but maybe it should be. Maybe a discussion to be had. My initial opinion is no, and it's never ever been that way. I think that would overly complicate things. And the fact is, if this doesn't get changed and it gets voted down, if it's the $3,000 thing that's the issue, then that should just be struck because we just talk about changing dates, and that seemed desirable to the past LNC, which there's a lot of duplicate members here. So if some persons have problems with certain of the language, I would recommend amendment. I would vote against the amendments, but that seems the more proper way. But right now it says all contracts with vendors. So anything we have a paper contract for, if it's relatively insignificant, we have to go through a transparent bidding process. And it seems to me it should be for significant. But to piggyback, I did run this through Mr. Ford as COC chair, since this does have to do with the COC. I did give him the language ahead of time for any kind of objections.
Mr. Maligan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, this can be easily skirted just by not having contracts for things. I don't think everything requires a bidding process. I mean, there are people that are knowledgeable about certain things and they can communicate and do this. Again, this is why the LNC chair, Ms. Yanuskavich, the EPCC chair, and I were going to workshop some of these inconsistencies all the way throughout. We don't need to put the cart before the horse. I think it's just more prudent. This doesn't need to happen now. I would encourage my colleagues to vote this down. We will be proposing recommendations that we can discuss ad nauseum in Grand Rapids if we need to, but this will go through proper channels so that everyone that is knowledgeable in respects to this sort of stuff can make these recommendations and then bring it forward to the LNC so it's not sloppy, for lack of a better way to put it. And so we're all in understanding and agreement with how this should be put forward.
Mr. Ford, then Mr. Lamb, and then Ms. Yanuskavich. Mr. Ford?
Secretary Harlow did have this conversation with me. I'm comfortable with the recommendation she's made. We've spent a great deal of time in the first couple of meetings, if you will, focusing on transparency, disclosures, and following procedure. I'm comfortable with our framework, and I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb, you still wish to speak?
No, withdrawn. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Yanuskavich, do you still wish to speak?
No, thank you.
All right. Anybody else wish to just have a discussion? Mr. McGee.
I personally, I don't have any problem with any of the language in the motion. However, I do think it's apparent to me that there needs to be more conversation between the COC and the EPCC before anything moves forward. So I would move to table the motion.
All right, we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
I have a point of order that's easily cured. A table is a motion that means you intend to come back to it the same meeting if possible. It's for an emergency situation. I believe Mr. McGee intends to postpone indefinitely or postpone to a certain time, such as our May meeting.
Sorry, postpone until our May meeting.
All right. Motion to postpone until the May in-person meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bost. We'll go ahead and move on to a vote. Let me ask, is there any objection to tabling until the meeting? There is objection? Okay. We'll go ahead into a roll call vote.
Okay, one moment. Let me get just a general template set up. Oh, I didn't mean to do that one.
That's the French pronunciation.
Yes, I meant the voting template. One moment. Duplicate. I'll rename it in a moment. I could fill in that top. So we're voting on postponing to the May meeting, Mr. Bost,
Yes.
Mr. Chatterton, Mr. Chatterton,
Sorry, pass.
Mr. Dar,
No.
Mr. Dassing,
Yes.
Mr. Ford, Mr. Ford. I'll come back to Mr.
I'm sorry.
Ford. Oh,
No,
sorry, Mr.
I'm here.
Ford.
We're voting right now, just to confirm, we're voting to postpone, if you will, the policy manual change. And if that is the case, I will say no.
I will vote no. Ms. Hallesley,
No.
Mr. Lamb,
No.
Mr. Maligan.
Nay.
You're voting no?
Correct. I'd like this voted.
Oh, okay, thank you.
For
I'm
proposed
sorry.
amendment.
I just got confused. Mr. McGee,
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch,
No.
one moment. Mr. Redpath,
No.
Mr. Thompson,
No.
Mr. Vincent, I don't know, have you arrived? Mr. Watkins, have you arrived? Ms. Yanuskavich,
No.
Mr. Chair, it's 2 yes, 10 no. No express abstentions. Do you wish to record?
I'll abstain.
Okay, let me just rename this so I don't get confused later. Okay.
All right, motion fails. We're now back onto the main motion and back onto discussion. Any further discussion on this motion? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. If not, we'll take it to a vote.
Okay. Sure, I do have that one set up. Just one moment. I would like to make this a little smaller so y'all can see it better. Mr. Bost,
Pass.
Mr. Chatterton,
Pass.
and I think I skipped you last time, but your vote wouldn't have made a difference. I apologize. I did not come back to you. Do you want me to record a vote for you on that postponement?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dar,
Yes.
Mr. Dassing,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hallesley,
No.
Mr. Lamb,
No.
Mr. Maligan,
Nay.
Mr. McGee,
Abstain.
Mr. Hirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Redpath,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
and since there's been no dings, Ms. Yanuskavich,
No.
and was there a pass? Mr. Bost was a pass, and Mr. Chatterton was a pass, I believe.
I vote yes.
Okay, Mr. Chatterton,
I'll vote yes.
okay, Mr. Chair, it is 8-4, 1 express abstention. Your vote would make a difference because it requires 2/3 for the policy manual change. If you don't vote, it passes. If you vote no, it fails.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, it achieved the 2/3.
All right, motion passes.
Okay, now
Next.
Ms. Yanuskavich is back up.
Miss Yanuskavich.
Okay. Update on the Kennedy Victory Fund. The fund is in closeout mode. Pursuant to FEC rules, the fund could only stay open after the election to pay off debt. At this time, sufficient donations have been received to extinguish the debt. Accordingly, the fund is processing the final distribution to the participants and wrapping up final expenses. To date, the LNC share of 18 distributions total 360,700. We expect the final distribution on Wednesday, of which the LNC will receive approximately 13,000, and that will be it. There will be no more funds from the Kennedy Victory Fund after that. After the distribution, the LNC's total share with the Kennedy Victory Fund will be around 373,000. So the LNC has some closeout responsibilities. After the final distribution is sent and the participants send their final wires to the LNC's restricted joint fundraising committee bank account, which is separate from our general operating account. And I've seen some misunderstanding out in social media about how all of this works. So just briefly, I don't want to take a lot of time here, but when the LNC gets a distribution from the Kennedy Victory Fund, it can be up to 41,300 from each donor if that donor is not previously donated to the LNC. Of that amount, 90% is wired into a restricted joint fundraising committee account, and 10% is ours, LNC, free and clear, goes into our general operating account. So once the final wires from the participants come back to the joint fundraising account, then the LNC will pay the remaining Team Kennedy expenses. The LNC will have some final invoices to be paid from the joint fundraising committee account. We are going to get a reimbursement for our audit. We're in discussions as to exactly how much of the audit they will pay. Our FEC consultant for any hours over and above, which she has spent for normal LNC FEC work, and our accounting firm, they keep time on additional hours. We pay them by the hour, so anything over that is strictly Kennedy Victory Fund related, or even if it's mixed to some degree, we get reimbursement for, and occasionally there's a couple of hours of staff time per month. When all final Team Kennedy expenses are paid, the joint fundraising bank account will be closed. And, you know, I have seen some other misunderstandings about who directs the joint fundraising committee account. That is the account that gets the 90% of the distribution, both directly from the Kennedy Victory Fund and from the participants. While that is an LNC account, that we are the holders of that account, pursuant to the contract, no one in LNC makes decisions to expend those funds. Those funds are paid at the direction of Team Kennedy. I know some people have been watching carefully all the FEC related filings, and you may have seen a updated statement of organization filed by the Kennedy Victory Fund a few days ago. That statement updated the list of participants to include 4 of our participants who've been on the fund for a while. They just became FEC filers, so their new FEC numbers are posted. These 4 states received funds from the Kennedy Victory Fund when they were not FEC filers. That is permissible under FEC rules. However, contractually with the Kennedy Victory Fund, they are required to send 90% of that distribution to the LNC's restricted joint fundraising committee, or restricted bank account. That is not permitted by FEC rules. Accordingly, any transfers that were sent from those states to the LNC were returned to those states until they completed their process to register with the FEC. They have done that now, and now they will be able to transfer those funds back. We're hoping that all the transfers and all the expenses will be closed out in the next month, and I'll provide another update at the May board meeting, hopefully with final numbers. Does anyone have any questions on that or anything about the Kennedy Victory Fund?
Just to reiterate, Ms. Yanuskavich, what was the total number that was brought in?
So far, it's 360,700. And with I'm estimating it'll be about 13,000. It probably will be between 11 and 14. But we should end up with about around 373,000 total from the Kennedy Victory Fund.
And the training wheels come off next Wednesday?
Correct, that's it. Yep.
So that's the time we pull up our bootstraps and get to work. More so than we've already been.
Yes.
Any questions for Ms. Yanuskavich? All right. Hearing none, thank you very much. Okay, perfect segue into our next topic, which is the financial review with our treasurer, Mr. Redpath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I sent out on, I believe, March 31, the February month-end financial statements. I sent them to the LNC public list, which I thought would also be reflected on the board list. Apparently it was not. Thank you to Kathy Yanuskavich for sending it out to the board list today. Didn't realize that you guys didn't get that, but from now on I'll send it to the public list and the board list at the same time. There was a short report with that, along with the actual financial statements. Be happy to address any questions, but I will give an update right now as to sort of initial income statement report on March, and give a balance sheet update for April 6th. I went on to QuickBooks today to get updated balance sheet numbers, and Hannah Kennedy reports, the executive director reports that for the month of March, basically that revenues totaled just a little shy of $70,000. That would be ballpark $45,000 of general revenues and about $24,000 of joint fundraising committee. So it's actually about 45.5 on the regular LNC revenues, a little over 24,000 the joint fundraising committee. March revenue estimate right now, $69,659. Expenses were about $49,600. Revenue minus expenses for March right now, ballpark $20,000 of net income in March of 2025. The current balance sheet situation as of last Friday and as of today, we have unrestricted cash right now of about $204,000 in the PNC and Truist bank accounts. Combination accounts payable and credit card debt right now sums to $58,122. So our cash situation is again about $204,000 unrestricted cash, accounts payable and credit cards about $58,000. There is a balance sheet item on Zoho, unprocessed checks. I would need to talk with the accountant. That is a credit balance, so it's sort of a negative $40,429. So that might be an offset to cash there. So if that is an offset to cash, then the cash position would be basically $164,000, rounded to the nearest $1,000. I've got to check on that. Hannah is out tomorrow, but I'm going to check with the accountant on that situation. So that's a summary of the current balance sheet situation for the LNC. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions before I give an update on fundraising? Ms. Yanuskevich.
It's not a question, but I just want to highlight that our credit cards are down to around 58,000 from 100.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're working with credit card debt. Thank God. Mr. Thompson.
Do you know what sort of rate we have on the credit card?
It's in the double digits. I think it's I can't tell you offhand, but I think it's like in the 14 to 16% ballpark.
Yeah, one of them is 14 and the other one is 16.
Right. I knew it was in the 14
exactly
to 16% area. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess forgive my ignorance. Is there a reason we can't throw some of the unrestricted cash at that amount to just erase it?
I think we could do that. I'll talk to Hannah Kennedy about that. But I've said in the past that I've communicated to her that we ought to make that a point of emphasis in terms of paying down that credit card debt. I have investigated lower credit card rates through loans, but I don't think that's really going to be feasible. But I will speak with Hannah Kennedy about that.
And I will say, and I'll let everybody speak too before I go on my diatribe, but we do have a bit of a shortfall. And so we want to keep that liquidity going for as long as possible, especially until we can get the building sold and get the FEC word back on how the money can be used and hopefully to pay off the credit card and some other things. But to go through liquidity, we can throw a little bit at it at a time, but we don't want to throw a lump sum at it and lose 25% of our liquidity overnight at this time until we get some things shored up and get some projects started, and then I'll feel a lot more comfortable about it. But we'll go down the list. We'll go Yanuskevich, Malagon, Karen Ann, Ms. Harlos, and then Mr. Thompson.
I believe Ms.
Bless you.
Harlos, Mr. Malagon were in front of me.
Okay, then we'll go Malagon, Harlos, Yanuskevich, Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to address Mr. Thompson's point, I suspect, given the last disbursement, the email that I received 2 days ago for California's disbursement regarding the KVF, it was a fraction of what was anticipated in this last disbursement. So I don't think that we can, I literally don't think that we have the money. The runway that we had initially projected that was contingent on the payout from the KVF is no longer in play. So we literally can't afford to pay off the credit card debt right now. It would have to be after the building is sold, which we'll talk about later. But someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that would be the case, or the reason why we can't do that now.
Ms. Harlos?
Yeah, comment and a question. And I'm not a financial person, so I don't pretend to be. I don't play one on TV either. With the liquidity argument, however, could it be argued, and again, I could be completely off base, that paying it off would save us the interest money, but we'd still have that credit limit. So if we ran into trouble, we could always charge things on it, but at least between now and then we wouldn't be paying the interest. Again, that could be off base. That's just a comment. The question I had, which may not be appropriate to answer right now, if you say so, Mr. Chair, I'll honor that. Maybe it needs to be executive session. How did our credit card get so high?
Apparently at some point, and I forget the exact point in time, someone gave instructions to only pay the minimum payment on the credit card. And then it got really high. So Now we have a really high credit card balance. But yeah, we're working on rolling that back. I hear you on, paying it off to save money on interest. I'm very interested in doing everything we can to save money. I talked to Hannah about that a little bit more because there's certain things we can put on the credit card that if we had to in an emergency, we can just use the credit card. And there's certain things we won't be able to, like staff salaries, if we get into a cash crunch. So that's the only consideration there. But I'll bring that up with her again to see where we're at. I really want to see once the KVF dries up and give it another month to see what is our net income on a predictable basis and any major expenses coming up to make sure that, we're not shooting ourselves in the foot right away by paying off that balance because we may need to deploy that cash potentially. But I hear you on that. We did use the money released from I believe it was the Michigan suit that ended last November. There was money held in escrow, 25 grand we threw at the credit card balance. We may be able to just start throwing 10 grand a month at it, and just pay it down if we're worried about liquidity or, some other strategy. But I definitely want to get that down. I think Ms. Niskavich is next.
Yes, I was surprised. I had the same question about what's on the credit card, and I've taken a look at it. There's nothing huge, a huge expenditure that stands out. There are a lot of recurring expenses that we have that are on credit cards because, that's just the most efficient way to pay those. And when we had issues with cash flow and leading into the convention, there was a decision at that time not to pay, only to pay the minimum on the credit cards. I believe our executive director has been paying the minimum plus anything that was charged during that month. And that was really, I was really hoping that we would have a decent first quarter separate and apart from the Kennedy Victory Fund money. I was hoping the last, I was expecting based on, what I had heard from them, that the last distribution was going to be fairly sizable. And I was hoping that we would be able to pay it off, just flat out pay it off with that. But, we have, with the 204 in the bank, our credit cards around 58. We have some other restricted funds. I don't mean that in the sense that it's a full it's a commitment. It's not like restricted in the accounting sense of another $2,000 toward our legal retainer. So that's $60,000. If we pay that right off the top from the 204, we're at around 140,000. Now, March was a little better in terms of matching. There wasn't as much of a discrepancy between our general revenue and our expenses. We were only 4,600, in the hole. It makes me really nervous to pay an additional amount right now. I was really hoping that we could. I want to get those things cleared up as soon as possible, but we really need to project our income, our expenses, see what else we can cut. And I know the chair's going to talk about some of this, and also, see how we can do with fundraising. If the board all makes fundraising calls and brings money in, then, we will be able to pay those off.
Mr. Thompson, and then I'm going to go ahead. Mr. Thompson? Do you still want to speak?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was on mute, but just rest assured what I said while I was on mute was brilliant. Karen Ann kind of made my same point, though. I was just going to say that we would still have the liquidity. We just wouldn't have a 15% interest rate. However, you did bring up that there are some items maybe that we can't pay with a credit card that we would still need the cash on hand for. I don't have your business experience. I just have my personal experience being debt free. So the Dave Ramsey part of my brain really wants to get rid of the guaranteed 15% credit card debt.
No, I hear you. I agree. I'll see if there's anything we can look at that we could put on the credit card if we had to, that we can project out and save the 15%. But as Kathy mentioned, we're kind of in a bit of a holding pattern because the reality of our income versus expenditures is still a bit of a moving target right now. And so
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you know if there was a vote on only paying the minimum amount, or was that a unilateral thing?
I believe that was an executive decision, a
Okay.
prior executive.
So that was just an Angela thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
In
if I may
consultation
also,
with the treasurer, with the treasurer recommended that.
Actually, yes, with the treasurer's input. Yeah.
And-
So it was a bilateral decision. It was not a unilateral decision.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Ford, if it's really quick, and
Briefly on the note, Karen Ann's point is valid. There's one wild card here. I've read, I follow the banking industry. There is a growing trend, given the economy, banksters doing what they do, of credit lines being cut once they're paid. So be very, very careful, because you could find yourself in a position. I'm not saying it's unique or anything we've done, but you could pay down your credit line all of a sudden with the anticipation of it being available, and it might not be there anymore. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Ford. So on that note, I don't think it's any secret that the LNC, quite frankly, let's be blunt, has been shrinking. We've been shrinking in terms of members, and we've been shrinking in terms of fundraising. Probably for the past 5-6 years, maybe longer. The past quarter century, if you look at it on a long enough timeline. And I'll go off the bat and say that in the past 2 months, I've been working with Hannah and staff to cut everything that's not nailed down. We did hire Strategist Inc., Debbie Mason. She's the one who did our board training in August. She's excellent. We fundraised $8,500, mostly from the LNC. Special shout out to LP California and Lars Mapstead also for contributing, but the bulk of the money did come from the board to hire her on to do an operational evaluation, because oftentimes see what loose ends you have in an organization, what you can streamline, how you can make the most out of your paycheck, out of your money, stretch every dollar. You have to really be on the inside. So I've spent a lot of time working with staff, working with Hannah, just seeing how things operate. And then Debbie's basically going to be going in. She's already working with staff. She's already doing a lot of different things. And she will be making some recommendations and giving a formal report to the LNC before the May meeting. So that's fantastic. We still are looking to make cuts. We're still looking to make room for someone to work on fundraising. We've cut labor to a degree. That's staff hours. I also spoke with Mr. Heiss, and we've decided that we've made a mutual decision to part ways. And so his last day is today, and we'll not be renewing. And we're doing everything we can to basically cut down and still be a skeleton crew and do as much as possible with what we have. But that's not enough. We have to grow, and we have to actively fundraise. So over the past month and a half or so, Paul Dar and I have been meeting with Jim Babka. Jim Babka works for Mr. Roofer, Chris Roofer. And Jim Babka was vital in Project Archimedes, which was the late 90s, early 2000s LNC program to get new members joining the Libertarian Party. And so what they did is they took lists, they made excellent copy for lists, and they sent out mailers. Back then, that was pretty much the only thing that you could do. And they were able to get 30,000 libertarians. These are party members, and about $3 million a year. So they budgeted about $100 per member. If we would have been growing 5-10% a year, over the past 25 years, we would be, I don't know, $20-25 million a year, which is where we should be. But instead, if you look at the charts, we've done this. We've gone down and down and down over the years. And I think a part of that reason we've never really had a serious membership program or fundraising program And until very recently, we've never made fundraising or membership growth a priority. So I'm here to tell you today that not only did the LNC meet previously, just about a week or two ago, and reaffirm that our new commitment now is our number one commitment is membership and growth, which is tied to fundraising. And we'll also be implementing an Archimedes 2.0 program where we're going to be seriously dedicated to finding new members and having them join the Libertarian National Committee, having them join the party. And I think a rising tide raises all ships. So they'll be joining state affiliates, and they'll be joining, becoming candidates and members and future leaders of this party, because that's what we need to grow. And so I've been talking to staff for a while about implementing this. I've been talking with Mr. Babka. I had a conversation with Steve Dasbach, who was chair during that period. We also spoke with Perry Willis, who was a part of the project. He also wrote the copy for the project, and we'll be working with him again to do a copy for it in this new reiteration. And the idea is that we have data, and we know who's registered libertarian in the United States, in most states. So we're going to be looking at what's low-hanging fruit, going after people through social media, paying Meta, paying Google, whatever, for targeted ads, embedding cookies, following them around wherever they go, upending the data, making sure it's accurate, and encouraging them to join the Libertarian Party. Encouraging them to become recurring members, get that $5 a month donor, that's $60 a year, $10 a month donors, $120 a year, or even at least the very least a one-time member. Going through our email lists, getting new email lists and forwarding to people, encouraging them to join. We're exploring text messaging. We're exploring direct mail, figuring out which demographics work, people who donate by check, people who are over a certain age bracket in a certain tax range. Who are the best people to target, and what are the best methods to communicate with them to have them join the LP. So that's basically the program. Staff's aligned. We've got a lot of smart people, both on the board and off the board, that we're working with to get this into motion. Mr. Roofer is very interested in the program, and he'll be meeting us in Grand Rapids this upcoming meeting to speak a little bit more about that and some of his vision for the party. And I think this is very exciting and very relevant, and it's the number one most important thing we need to work on. We're going to be starting with the Florida state data because it's readily accessible. And also, I know my people, I know Floridians. There's about 42,000 registered libertarians in the state of Florida. These are people that already are calling themselves libertarian. They know the Libertarian Party exists, but they're not members. And so if we can go after these people, figure out what works, get them to join the party, and then take that same model and expand it across all 50 states. This ties in with the joint membership program. So if we're targeting your state, your data, going after members for you that hopefully join up in your state party, if you join onto the joint membership program, then when they join the national party, then they can also join the state party and hopefully do a split donation, and you get that data as well. But ultimately, we need to grow, because if we're not growing, we're dying. And so in my opinion, this is the most surefire thing we can do. We've done it in the past. We're bringing it into the 21st century, and we're doing it a bit differently. I'm very excited about this. Staff's very excited about this. Members of the board that I've spoken to seem very excited about this. We're also doing a board phone banking program. We all have lists of people we're going to be contacting. I'm fully expecting the board to give or get. So either get on the phone for a few hours a month minimum and start making phone calls, introducing yourselves. A lot of you guys are region reps, so you have an interest in calling out to your region and introducing yourself or reintroducing yourself to people, and getting them to up their donation or join the party or say thank you for donating, or whatever the case may be. And eventually we'll be rolling that out to volunteers at some point once we have the program finalized. So this is an all hands on deck operation. I've got a few contracts out for some fundraisers to make phone calls. Larry Sharp is one of those individuals who I'm working with to get him on the phone and to help assist us. And we are looking for a paid fundraiser to join staff, either on a part-time or full-time basis. And so this is one of those snowballs that we need and get into that upward spiral. If we have money, we can do things. So if we've got more and more money we can count on, we can do things. Right now, we don't know, with precision what our monthly income is going to be. So month to month, we could count on a $50,000 month and get a $40,000 month. We could count on you can't count in the KFV anymore. So the training wheels are off. So this is extremely important. This is probably the most important thing. And once we get these systems down, then we're looking really good. So I've already talked to Hannah Kennedy. We basically are retooling staff to focus primarily on fundraising and membership growth. So everything that we're doing is being realigned in that direction. Obviously, they still have to do certain things they need to do to keep the lights on and keep things moving. But that is the direction that we're heading. Anything extracurricular to this mission, we're putting on the back burner, or we're just not focusing on right now. Obviously, we still have COC, we still have PDR, we still have Defend the Guard, but primarily what I want this board doing and I want staff doing is focusing on our membership and growth. And so you're going to see a little more about Archimedes in the future, but this Archimedes 2.0 project, it's well underway. We've sent out FRPs to several social media companies. Matt Johnson is one of them. He's a board member. He does have a company. And we are doing this in a completely transparent progress. Maybe we pick Matt's company. Maybe we pick somebody else. We've got it for about 3 or 4 companies. So everything's being done in the sunshine and transparently there. And then we already have the data. We're using data services to upend the data, make sure it's completely accurate so that we get good leads, that we don't get marked as spam, and we can accurately target people. And that goes into the emails as well. Same thing with the texting. It has to be very accurate information, and so on and so forth. So that's an overview of where we're at. If anybody's got any questions or comments, we'll go ahead and start. Karen Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wanted to let you know that I'm thrilled that you're taking this up. Steve Dasbach will tell you that ever since I learned about Archimedes, I had been fascinated by it. And Perry Willis is fantastic as well. So I'm really glad that you're picking this back up because I do think, as they said, it's the lever that will move our membership. And Steve will testify to this, that I think I've been as fascinated with Archimedes as he has been. And I don't think his original vision was ever given enough time to bloom. And if it had been, the LP would be in a much different place today. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Dar.
Yeah, so I'm extremely excited about this program. I came into the LP back when Steve Dosbach was running this program. It was a great time of growth. Love that we now have the ability to use modern data tools to actually make this so much more effective. They were constrained by the technology of the time there. And as I look back at how the growth of the party, we've been living off of that growth for so long in the party here, and I'm excited we'll be able to grow the party again under that program.
And I just want to say, Paul has been on every single call with me, with Jim and others to make this happen. He's actually the one that got the lead for getting this going. So thank you, Paul. We've been working hand in hand for the past 2 months. We talk every single day, pretty much. And I know we're putting in a lot of hours to get this started and to get things streamlined. So shout out to Paul Dar. Anybody else? Anybody else have anything to discuss on this or anything else related? All right, cool. And just to remind to the LNC is we are going to be putting together at least 1, maybe 2 phone banking trainings to get the LNC started on phone banking. So that's in the works. It's going to be happening very soon, and I'm very excited about that also. All right, awesome. Investigatory committee update, Mr. Dar.
Okay, this is fairly straightforward. The investigatory committee has been working for quite some time on the specifics of what's going on there that we were directed to work on. The members of the committee are on the lp.org site. I am currently the chair of the committee, and Ben Weir is the secretary. As far as some highlights of some of the work that has been going on so far, we've had weekly meetings. We've met formally 7 times over the course of this time. We've conducted 7 interviews with different individuals concerning knowledge that some of them, went over an hour in time, some less. We've conducted another estimated 60 hours of reviews of financial records, call records, email records, and other documentation. And we've met with legal counsel once, and we'll have counsel review the report prior to distribution to the LNC. The committee is working at a steady, deliberate pace and is expecting to have a full report completed on or before the main LNC meeting. So that information is forthcoming. We have been just steadily working on it. Unfortunately, as membership keeps asking us questions, as far as professionalism as a committee, we aren't really able to say the specifics of what's going on in the investigation so far, other than we have been working consistently on it at this time. Are there any questions?
I can't seem to raise my hand.
Okay.
So just, I have on the screen for everyone the report that you
Okay.
sent me. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Mr. Dar, and also members can find this on the OneNote. So it said that you're expected to have a full report completed on or before the May meeting?
That is our current projection, yes.
And just something I'd like to point out for members, because I've been getting questions. There are non-LNC members on the committee, because I've seen some people say that the committee is just LNC members, and the members are listed up on the screen if anyone is curious.
Yes, thank you very much for showing the report. I gave a brief 1-page report with all those highlights that I just read off. And you can tell anyone that doesn't have an lp.org email is one of our non-LNC members on the committee.
All right, any other questions? If not, thank you very much, Mr. Dar. And if you humor me, I'd like to give one clarification. Because someone messaged me. Let me clarify. The LNC has tried in the past to make fundraising and membership a priority. We've had people really working very hard on it. But this is the first time in my memory we've ever actually made it a goal. And when I say a goal, I mean the whole board voting on it and making it literally a priority in terms of we're setting a goal, we're voting on a goal. These are our priorities ranked, boom, boom, boom. Like this is what we're going after. So not to disparage past LNCs for taking, not making it a number one priority or whatever, just saying this is the first time we've actually, really formalized it as a real priority and done something like this. So in any case, update on building fund research. And
that was me, Chair Nikela, because I was hoping Ms. Yanuskavich had asked me in the past. There was a building committee, and that was mentioned in a set of minutes, and I was really wanting to find that report for the LNC since she asked me for it. But just for everyone's reference, if anyone wants to read it, I did go through all of the minutes up until the time that we purchased the building. There are links in the OneNote if anyone needs light reading. It was the November 2010 meeting though that had the most information on it. But however, I was at storage today, and unfortunately there was not a binder for that November 2010 meeting that had that key report in it. It just isn't there. I spoke with Mr. Hinkle earlier, who is going to look to see if perhaps he has it. I'm going to get in touch with Mr. Neal, because these were all people who were involved at the time who may have a copy. And I'm also going to reach out to Alicia Matson to see if she has a copy, just so that the committee has as much information. But unfortunately, it was not in storage. And that was it.
All right. Thank you, Karen Ann. Any questions on this item? All right. Hearing none, we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is, and we'll hand the gavel off to Mr. Dar. I move to authorize up to $16,000 for HQ roof repairs. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Did someone second?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll speak to my motion and bring everybody up to speed on what's actually happening with the building, because I feel like it's one giant game of telephone, and I don't think anybody really knows what's going on. So we had an offer from our neighbors that they were going to purchase the building for $650, and their GC put out about $150,000. We got to fix this and this and this and this and this. And I said, look, I want an itemized list of, what every single item is for. And then we're going to get our own quotes, and we're going to compare these quotes, and we're going to see, what the real damages are. Because personally, as somebody who's done this kind of stuff before with remodels and repairs and whatnot and acquisitions, I know I don't think we have $150,000 in damages. We actually had the building appraised for $840 market value. So we went out, we got our own bids. We had a couple roofing quotes come in. We've had some drywall quotes come in. We had some other repair quotes come in. And I am still talking to our neighbor, and we're going to see if we can work out some kind of deal potentially. It's been a little hot and cold, and I think now it seems like they're very interested, and they know that we're not willing to budge for what they wanted. I've also employed Mike Porter with Tartan Properties as a listing agent. So I feel that we can get somewhere between $800,000 or $850,000 for the building. I think we can net between $750,000 and $800,000 for HQ. And I believe if we do some of the necessary repairs on our end, we can save a lot of money in lowballing from some of the buyers. And we do have to do some of these fixes before we list it. So the plan is to get the maximum amount of money out of this building. And I know some folks, there's the whole, what are we going to do with the building fund? And I understand that we do have an FEC opinion request out that we're waiting to hear back on. The plan is to put this money into a high yield savings account or some kind of account in order to maximize the gains once we do sell the building. And regardless of anybody's opinions on whether we should buy a new building or use the money for certain purposes, I will tell you that at this moment we have no staff in the District of Columbia or Virginia area. 5 or 6 years ago, we used to have a lot of people in the area showing up to the office. It was a very electric, I'll say, atmosphere in the office. We had people coming in. It was really great. And about a year and a half ago, the last person manning the office, we did end up outsourcing that work, and he is no longer with the organization. And so at this point, it's vacant. One of our neighbors used it for storage, and we got a little income on that. We do have some equipment in there. We've got a printer that's worth some money and some other stuff that might be worth some money that we're looking to sell. But the reality is we live in 2025. Everybody that we employ works remotely. Some of them are Texas, some of them are in California, some of them are in the Northeast. Well, the new people we hire will more than likely not be in DC. If we wanted to move everybody to DC, we'd have to pay them more money because DC is a very high cost of living area. And they'd have to be willing to uproot their lives and move to DC just to be in a building. The arguments for being in DC, I think it was 3 arguments. I think one was prestige, which I understand that argument. 2 is that we'd have a home base for lobbyists. We've never employed a lobbyist, at least not one that used our building as HQ. They usually already have their own office. And 3 was to use the press pass. We paid about $2,000 a year for many years, and we've never used the press pass, not even once, to my understanding. So at this point, we have no use for the office space. Even if we did want to use an office space in DC, we would want a more modern office space, which is a single story, square footage floor plan instead of three stories on top of each other. And so, regardless of, the opinion of keeping it, selling it, or reusing it, I think in my professional opinion, we need to sell this building. It is a liability. Anytime you own an asset like a building, it's a liability unless you're using it as an asset, and we're not using it as an asset at the moment. So, with that in mind, I did put out a few bids for the roof. There was some rumors circulating. We had a 20-year warranty on the roof. I called Alexandria Roofing Company, which is the original roofers that did the roof in '09. It was a 10-year warranty because it's a flat roof, it's a membrane. So that expired in 2019. We spent about $3,000 patching it in 2020 and 2021, or around there. 2019, 2021, 2020. Spent around $3,000. And it is currently out of warranty. So I asked them how much it would cost to repair. They said it's too far gone to repair. You have to replace it. They came back with about 13.5, and that's when I originally asked for the 16,000, is to get a little cushion in there just in case. We did find another roofing company that's willing to do it for around 11,000. So we're more than likely going to go with them, and their scope of work looks a lot better. For the drywall repair, we're probably looking at about 5,500 for Liberty Painting. And so they're going to do the drywall repair and the paint. And then we have a few other repairs that we need to factor in. So I'm hoping we stay around 20 grand. I hope we don't go much higher than that in repairs. Now, the good thing is that, these are, the building can, once we sell it, can reimburse us for these repair costs. So, because these are building fund expenses, or at least go back into that fund. But the plan is, I'm still working with the neighbor to see if they're willing to come up on the price. So I'm hearing, I'm not going to budge. If we're going to do the repairs, then we're going to sell it for $840. If not, then we're going to list it, and we're going to see what bites we get in the area. I will say things are a little weird in DC right now, as far as the fluctuations in policy and whether people are staying or getting cut, and organizations aren't getting, which is great from a libertarian perspective, but it also puts us in an interesting situation when it comes to selling the headquarters and, what the prospective buyers are out there. But it only takes one buyer. We're going to do all of our due diligence. We're going to go through all of our fiduciary procedures and duties to make sure we get as much money as possible from HQ. And I want to sell this thing for $840. And, we're not going to pay cap gains, because I don't think we get more than $840 for it. We're going to put a little bit of money into it. And by the time we deal with costs and fees, I'd like to see us net as much money as possible. So that's where we're at. It'll be nice to have that liquidity, and then we can decide what we want to do with it later. If we want to get I don't know. We'd have to discuss it as a board in the future, what we'd actually need to use a space for if we got a space, how much we want to invest in that, yada, yada, yada. But this is step number one, is getting this sucker repaired and then sold, and then figuring out the FEC, what we can do, and all that fun stuff later. But I think this needs to go. So that's the motion. We won't be spending 16,000. Hopefully, we'll be closer to the 10,000 I mentioned before, and that's the motion. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Not seeing any hands raised for questions. Oh, now I am.
Was it seconded?
Yes, it was. By
Yes, it had
Mr.
been seconded.
Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Chatterton.
My understanding is there's still some potential for undiscovered issues that could be uncovered during the process of drywall painting that could have additional costs. Is that correct or not?
Well, I mean, we've got one more quote to see if there's anything, in there we need to take care of. If you look at the GC's quote, I mean, the way they listed it, it was like roofing, drywall, carpet and mold, and then some other stuff, and it wasn't itemized. And so, just judging by the quote from the roof, I mean, I just don't see what world that we're looking at $150,000, $200,000. I mean, they were going to offer 600 at one point. So is it $250,000 in damage? I don't think it's that bad. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of roof issues down here in Florida, and we get a lot of rain. Carolinas do too, but we get a lot of rain in Florida, and having to patch that up and take care of it. And I think most issues we're going to have are going to be, in the ductwork. And then, we're going to wait for once you get a few other quotes in, we should have a better idea. So if that's the case, we should know soon what the extents are and what the repairs are going to be for everything. So I'm pretty confident we can get our own prices and get it done.
So I've had some experience dealing with leaks and mold in the past. House I lived in when I was in high school had a flood while we were out of town, and mold got into the ductwork and things like that. And I just want to caution that those kind of costs for that kind of remediation can absolutely explode. We ended up having to move out of a home for over a year to remediate such issues when I was growing up. So I would generally be opposed to starting such repairs before we've had it fully assessed and know what that potential liability is, as I see that our most reasonable path is going to be one of either don't fix anything and sell it as is, or fix everything and sell it completely repaired. And I think if we are still not sure about what the potential liability is for repairs, I think it would be unwise given our issues with liquidity. I think we should be waiting to dive into such repairs until we know the full scope of that. So I would be speaking in opposition to starting expenditures towards repairs while we're still learning more about potential damages.
We're going to wait for the full quote for remediation before we move forward on anything. Because if they come back with some crazy high number, then then we're back to negotiating table essentially. But if it's a number that makes sense, then then we can handle it and then get a lot more money out of it if we do it ourselves. So it's going to depend on what those numbers come back at. So I did talk to Ann about this. We are going to do it in order to make sure that we know the full scope.
I believe Mr. Weir's next.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to my professional experience as a project estimator. I've done all kinds of construction work. I've made it my livelihood, and I do think that this is a very reasonable request. And I think that this is definitely what's in the best interest of the LNC moving forward if we're planning to sell the building to get the most out of our asset in the sale. And I mean, I can speak more to that to people offline if they're really interested in that, but I cannot speak more more in favor of this. And I would like to, I guess at that point, I'm going to call the question on this as well.
An alternate can't call the question.
I'll call the question.
But I had my hand up. You can't.
I know, that's why I want to call the question. I think we should just move forward.
I think this will be disposed of quickest if we just go to Ms. Harlos next here.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I'm hoping to change Mr. Chatterton's mind. I too have had a lot of experience with mold in my profession within insurance defense, and I totally hear you. Like, you can get into these things and they can blow up on you. But one thing you always have to do is get rid of the source of water, because it will only get worse. So it can be bad now and it can explode on us, but it will explode even further if you don't stop the water intrusion. That's just number one. You always have to stop the water intrusion. So, yeah, so fixing the roof repairs, I think, is wise, and then we can decide what other repairs we're going to do. But dampness will only get worse the longer you let the water get in.
And I am not seeing any other speakers in the queue, so I believe we can now move to a vote on the question.
One moment. Is there objection? I'm sorry, I'm not trying
That's
to
a
do
good
your
question.
job.
That's a good question. Is there, I had to presume so. So, is there any objection to the motion on the floor?
I object.
Thought so. All right, we'll now move to a vote.
Thank you. Mr. Bost?
No.
Mr. Chatterton,
No.
I'll skip you, Mr. Dessing,
No.
Mr. Ford,
No.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hallisey,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
No.
Mr. Maligan,
Aye.
Mr. McGee,
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Redpath,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Dar, the vote is 9-5 to 0.
My vote doesn't matter on this one, correct?
Correct, and I normally will just put down an abstain if you don't vote.
I would just abstain in this case
Okay.
then.
Thank you.
All right. I'll go ahead and take back the gavel. And we will move on to Bylaws Committee reappointments. Ms. Harlos.
Okay, one moment. Let me just finish typing. Okay, I'll make the motion and see if there's a second, and then I will speak to it. The motion is somewhat long. In light of the 18 months of work put in by the past Bylaws Committee and the fact that their report was not heard, move that the Secretary make inquiry of last term's Bylaw Committee regular members, not alternates, and if any wish to serve again, that they be automatically, that should say reappointed by the LNC. I'm sorry, I worded that a little sloppily, reappointed by the LNC. Any open seats will be filled through an application process at our May meeting. And then there was, just for reference, here were the members appointed by the LNC at the end, because we had a resignation. Sylvia Arrowwood, Paul Bracco, Nicholas Sozelski, Karen Ann Harlos, Rob Latham, Frank Martin, Chuck Moulton, Tom Rolette, Mike Rufo, and Michael Seebeck.
Second.
Okay, this committee, this bylaws committee started the January before the 2024 convention and met every other Thursday for that entire time for hours and hours and hours of work. I do believe it's to respect the work of the volunteers that they get to have their proposals heard. I can't speak for everyone on this committee, but I've spent enough time with them to know that I believe the vast majority of them would meet and say, we're just going to present the report we already prepared. Though if something urgent came up that somebody found some weird thing in the bylaws, I suppose they could consider another amendment. But I think that they probably will go, yep, no, it's the report that everyone has seen already and has had adequate time to review, maybe make some tweaks. That's all. I'll reserve to speak a second time, but that's all I have this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Harlos. Mr. Maligan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would urge the LNC to vote this down. Ms. Harlos, Dr. Moulton, and Mr. Seebeck should not be anywhere near the Bylaws Committee or any other committee. I'm sorry that they didn't get a chance to present the report. There were
Mr. Chair, I have a point of order that there should not be personal attacks.
It's not a personal attack. I am just giving my opinion on this motion that you made, which I made on the public list, and I'm allowed to do that during discussion.
I would still raise my point of order to the chair. And
Mr. Chair, I've been interrupted while I'm speaking by the secretary. I'd like to finish my point, if I may.
I'm not sure what the point of order is regarding.
I'd like to finish just my point here.
I'm allowed to interrupt with a point of order and explain to the chair.
You've spoken for 90% of this meeting. Can other people speak? Is it really that hard?
Let's come to order. Come on. Let's just let Mr. Maligan finish. Let's just make sure we keep it clean. Let's not talk about each other, whatever. All right.
Thank you. So again, as I was saying, Ms. Harlos, Dr. Moulton, and Mr. Seebeck should not be on the bylaws committee or any other committee. I'm sorry that the committee didn't get to present the report. Such is life. I would gladly vote for the rest of the members should they choose to apply to the bylaws committee. And I would lobby for them should they want to present what they presented in the past or do something new, whatever. But given circumstances surrounding lawsuits and JC decisions and everything surrounding the removal of the secretary with Dr. Moulton representing her, I really just think it's very poor form for us to just like forget that the last few months didn't happen. And I would urge the LNC to vote this down. And with that, I will call the question.
There's a motion to call the question. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was the second?
McGee.
McGee. All right, we're going to have to vote on ending discussion.
One moment, let me just set up a ballot. And hold on, I want to remove my hand. I've been doing it through a shortcut key. There we go. Okay, one moment. Oh God, I did it. I did the same dumb thing again. One moment. I need the LNC, not ballot template, voting template. Okay, well, we'll call the question 2. Mr. Bost?
I'm sorry, I can't find mute. Can you clarify this specific vote?
Mr. Chair?
Are we calling the question or?
This is a vote on calling the question, and then it would move on to a vote.
Yes.
This isn't the vote.
Yes, to call the question. Yes, to call the question.
Mr. Chatterton?
Yes, to call the question.
Mr. Dar?
Yes.
Mr. Dassing?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
I'll abstain.
I will pass. Ms. Hallisey?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Maligan?
Aye.
Mr. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch?
No, several others have had their hands up.
Mr. Redpath?
No.
Mr. Thompson?
No.
Oh, sorry, I meant to do those. Ms. Yanuskavich?
Yes.
Okay, we had some passes. One moment here. I will vote no. I don't think there was any other passes. Mr. Chair, it's 8-4 to 1. Your vote will make a difference in the same way the other one.
I'll abstain.
Okay, so it does get the 2/3.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to a vote.
One moment. One second here, Mr. Bost?
No.
You got a lot of background noise, Mr. Bost. Mr. Chatterton?
No.
One second. Why won't it go? Mr. Dar?
Yes.
Mr. Dassing?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Pass.
I'm sorry, sir?
Pass.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hallisey?
No.
Mr. Lamb?
No.
Mr. Maligan?
Nay.
Mr. McGee?
Nay.
Mr. Hirsch?
Yes.
Mr. Redpath?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich?
No.
Was there, Mr. Ford, did you pass?
For the sake of argument, could you just go through the vote again? Not through the vote, through the motion again. Right now, if you vote no, you are voting against reappointing.
The ones who wish to serve.
Okay. My silence on this should speak volumes. Be great to actually debate a motion for once instead of jumping to it. However, I'm going to vote no.
Okay, Mr. Chair, your vote will not make a difference.
I'll abstain.
Okay, one moment.
Assuming we could take care of appointments through email at some point, we could probably make that motion on the list, take care of it before Grand Rapids.
We discussed this last meeting, I believe, where I'm going to be making a list for you with the applications and emails will go out. The email for the IS committee had already gone out, and then I had emailed you for all of, there's multiple committees that need applications.
Mr. Chair, you need to actually announce the result of that vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said failed. Motion fails. Next, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is delegate allocations update and policy manual change. Ms. Harlos. And
Okay,
then, Mr. You still have your hand up? Did you have anything?
Mr. Brown, you still have your hand up?
Okay, I think it was an artifact.
Okay, I'd like to do the update first, which will explain the reason for the policy manual change. Normally, so there's a bylaw, excuse me, a policy manual provision that gives certain timeframes for the secretary to send out to the affiliates the numbers that are intended to be used to apply the formula in the bylaws for how many delegates are gotten per the presidential vote totals. At least for me in the past, that's been uncontroversial. Nobody has ever challenged the numbers. It's from the FEC site. Now, the numbers per se are not being challenged this time.
I'm really sorry, but you're going to need a second to speak to your motion.
I had noted an update first, and I'm updating about a challenge I received.
Okay.
And then I was going to make a motion. But with this part isn't the motion.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. If there's no second for this motion, then we don't need to discuss it.
I haven't.
Update or not, I mean, I don't understand.
It's a weird way to do it, but time limit on this, 10 minutes? 15 minutes? Okay. I'll allow the update.
Thank you. So there's a situation in Tennessee where our ticket did not appear on the ballot, but party members wrote him in. The state of Tennessee does not count write-ins. And I received some challenges from some party members who are certifying that they wrote in the name and they would like their write-ins to count towards Tennessee's totals. And I spoke with the chair of Tennessee. He didn't object to these challenges. And he, in fact, sent another one my way. Dr. Moulton sent me how this happened one time in the past. And the write-ins, as long as the party members were willing to certify that they wrote in a state that doesn't count them, were counted by former Secretary Bob Solenthrop. And so I went to look on how we resolve this, and it seems to rest authority entirely with the secretary. I'm not comfortable with that, though. If that's what the LNC wishes to do, they certainly can. I would like this authority to rest with the LNC. Now I'll make my motion because there is challenges, and this would help. So going to section 1.11, party records, and subsection 2, delegate allocation based upon presidential votes. It's up on the screen. This is how I'm going to read how it would read if amended. But everyone can see on the screen, there's only one strikeout. Almost everything is additions in order to clarify current procedure and give more authority to the LNC. The secretary shall distribute to each party chair and post on the party website the presidential vote totals that the secretary proposes to use for purposes of delegate allocation for national conventions as provided for in the bylaws no later than the last day of April in the year following a presidential election. If any party member seeks a modification of the vote totals proposed by the secretary, the member shall file with the secretary a written request to modify the totals along with any documentation supporting the request no later than the last day of May of the same year. The secretary shall review all such requests to modify the presidential vote totals, and I'm adding and present them to the LNC for approval or disapproval. The secretary shall then distribute a final allocation of delegates based on presidential vote totals no later than the last day of July of the same year. So is there a second on that motion? I know that's for you to say, but I'm just curious.
I'll second.
Mr. Malagon, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for months, for probably years, we've heard about the secretary's duties and what they are, and many of them have not been codified in the bylaws or in the PM. This is one that actually is, and I would urge the LNC to vote no on this because this is not our job, it's the secretary's job. And just because she may feel uncomfortable about it or may not want to do it or make this decision, that should not fall on the LNC. This seems like a pretty easy thing to vote down, given recent events. So I plan on voting no. I would hope that the rest of the LNC feels the same way.
Ms. Arlen?
I'd like to make clear that nowhere did I say that I wasn't willing. I believe that the LNC should have more power as a body than it's had in the past, that it's vested too much power in single individuals, be that the chair, or in this circumstance, the secretary. I will give another reason. I have no problem making the decision. I have no problem letting the LNC know that the decision I would make if it's left with me is to count the Tennessee totals, because that is what precedent is. That's what a past secretary had done. However, it becomes very unclear if other states' delegate totals get affected, which they can be because everything's shifting proportions based upon what each state gets, that if they think it's the wrong decision, do they have appeal rights? They definitely have appeal rights if the LNC makes a decision. It's unclear. I think they have appeal rights if the secretary makes the decision, but I think it's very unclear. I do not know why, when it comes to our convention, that the LNC would not want to have greater control. But if this doesn't pass, I have zero problem making this decision, and I'm letting the LNC know ahead of time what my decision would be.
Mr. Malagon, is your hand still up?
Apologies, Mr. Chair. It's a relic. It didn't go down automatically.
Thank you. All right. Is there any further discussion on this item? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. If not, we'll go ahead and take it to a vote.
One moment. Mr. Bost? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Chatterton,
Yes.
Mr. Dar,
Pass for now.
Mr. Dassing,
Yes.
Mr. Ford.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hallesley,
No.
Mr. Lamb,
Pass.
Mr. Maligan,
Nay.
Mr. McGee,
Nay.
Mr. Hirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Redpath,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich.
No.
Was there any pass? Mr. Dar passed?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, your vote will not make a difference?
I'll abstain.
Madam Secretary, I would like to vote yes. You didn't come back to me after I passed.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Lamb. Okay, it's 10-4 to 0, Mr. Chair.
All right. Motion passes.
And Mr. Chair, I note that we didn't approve the agenda, it didn't really need to be approved, but I had told you from some discussion, so I'll just make a different motion that to move to postpone indefinitely the next item, which is appoint additional IALP rep.
Well, I won't be moving it, or at least I won't be asking for a second. So does it belong to the body when the motion is made, regardless if the mover is present? I'm trying to remember.
No, someone else would have to move it. I mean, notice has been given, so someone else can move it, but if no one moves it, it dies.
So you're making a motion to...
I'll wait to see if someone moves it.
Yeah, I'm pulling this motion.
Point of order, can we just let it be then? If we're just gonna, we can just adjourn if that's the last item on the agenda, and then just call it a day, and someone can bring it up later.
Adjournment's always in order. Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Maligan?
I'd like to move to adjourn.
I'll go ahead and second. Is there any objection to adjournment?
Mr. Chair, this is Mark Hinkle. I'd like to make a closing comment, if I may, regarding fundraising.
Mr. Chair, it is highly unorthodox for a member of the public to speak after they've already spoken during public comment. I object to that strongly, and my motion to adjourn is still on the table.
I have a very friendly
Mr. Hinkle would like to
suggestion.
speak the meeting is
I have a
over.
very-
Mr. Chair, Mr. Hinkle
very
should
friendly
not be speaking right now.
suggestion to the chair.
Mr. Chair, this is not in order.
Only members of the board can interject at this time. There's a motion going on. Is there any objection to adjournment?
Yes.
All right, then we'll take it to a vote.
One moment.
Mr. Boss, let me know he had to drop. He's on a plane.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chatterton,
Abstain.
Mr. Dar,
Abstain.
Mr. Dassing, Mr. Dassing, I don't know if you're still here. I'll come back. Mr. Ford,
I vote no. I never want this meeting to end.
I'm going to vote no. Ms. Hallesley,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
No.
Mr. Maligan,
Aye.
Mr. McGee,
Aye.
Mr. Hirsch,
No.
Mr. Redpath,
No.
Mr. Thompson,
I am voting no.
Ms. Yanuskavich,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion is 4 yes, 6 no, 2 express abstention.
I'll abstain.
I wanted to just make sure Mr. Dassing didn't come back.
I vote no.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so it is 4-7-2. Mr. Chair?
Motion fails. So we are back on to the.
Well, I would like to.
Go ahead.
I was trying to get your attention to make a motion to allow 10 minutes of closing public comment. If there's a second, I'll speak to my motion.
Second.
All right. There's a
Okay.
second.
I think someone seconded. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Mr. To speak to my motion, in the past when we have finished with time, we have allowed closing public comment. A member of the public had indicated they would like to address us. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
There's a lot of hands up. Mr. Brown, your hand's still up. I'm not sure if it's meant to be there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, that if you adjourn with any item still on the agenda, that item comes back at the next meeting as unfinished business. So
good to know. Okay, that's good to know. Mr. Chatterton, you have your hand up raised.
I raised my hand to comment not related to the current motion before it was made.
Okay.
I don't know if it'd be appropriate to speak now or to come back after this motion is disposed of.
I would come back unless it's germane to this motion.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead with, I believe it was order of, we'll do Malagon, Thompson, and then JJ with that objection from the body.
I have an objection. Mr. Brown's typically been our parliamentarian.
First of all, we don't have a parliamentarian at this moment. I'll cede to Mr. Jonathan Jacobs, actually.
We're not allowed to cede to a non-member.
Chair, I'm speaking to the chair right now. You're the secretary. You are not the chair. I just want to be clear. I'm speaking to the chair. Mr. Chair, I will cede my spot to Mr. Jacobs, and I will lower my hand.
Mr. Chair, I'm hoping to speak in public with the public comment.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to regain trust with the membership. It makes a lot of sense to me to allow them to speak, especially if we're going to do some games where we use our time and then cede it to others. We might as well just allow public comment.
Mr. Malaga?
Okay, so I'll just address this now. I mean, Mr. Hinkle, I mean, if we're going to talk about trust, nothing that we do is going to be good enough for him. He's a Californian. He's in Santa Clara County. I know what the game is here, and I don't think he should be allowed to speak more than the one time that he was already allowed to speak, which went a bit over. But it is what it is. Whatever the body decides is fine. If they want to hear from him again, we spent more time arguing about this. We could have been done. And actually, I remember the secretary going on and on before about how this is a 2-hour meeting and it's set in stone. So it's really funny that we're at now 6:07 Pacific time, which is 2 hours and 7 minutes over the time. So this meeting should have already been done, but it's not. But whatever. I mean, logic has really just taken a back seat today. So that's fine.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward with the vote.
Okay, Mr. Boss is gone. Mr. Chatterton.
Dane.
Whoops, sorry, that needs to be capitalized. Mr. Dar.
I'll abstain.
Mr. Is Mr. Dassing here?
Yes.
And your vote is, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Ford? Mr. Ford?
I wonder if you can, I'm going to be like the spelling bee person. Can you just re-explain what I'm voting on here?
To allow a closing up to 10 minutes of public comment. A couple members wish to speak.
I will always support public comment, so I vote yes. Thank you.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hallisey?
No.
Mr. Lamb?
Pass.
Mr. Madigan?
I love Mr. Jacobs, but I will respectfully vote no because of Mr. Hinkle.
Mr. McGee?
I love public comment. I vote yes.
Mr. Hirsch?
Yes.
Mr. Redpath?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Yanuskavich?
Abstain.
And there was a pass. Mr. Lamb? Mr. Lamb?
I'm sorry. Yes, I said I abstain as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone I missed just because people are leaving? Mr. Chair, it's 7-2 to 4.
Here's the problem. And look, I'm not against public comment, and I will allow, after the meeting is adjourned, I will allow some time to do unofficial public comment. But I don't believe we can really do this.
I'm sorry?
This is a special meeting, and I don't believe we can add new items to a special meeting unless it's through unanimous consent.
Business you cannot, Mr. Chair, but I believe through a 2/3 vote, you can extend time. We already had public comment. This is basically extending time at the end for additional.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, we'd have to do a different motion to extend time. That's not what's happening right now. This is adding something to the agenda, which we did not approve, by the way, which we should have done. And that was something that was missed early on. So throwing that out there, it's your call, but I think we should just adjourn and call it a day. If people want to stay on to speak their minds because that's what they want to do on a Sunday evening, have at it. But I'd like to go.
That item was already dispensed.
If we're curious, just Mr. Chair, as a point of order, Mr. Jacobs is here. He could kind of shed light on this issue. He is a brilliant parliamentarian. If you'd like to ask him for his opinion, we don't have an official parliamentarian, but he is a very capable and willing one that has helped us in the past. I would, if you are amenable to it, I would like to hear his opinion on the matter.
Without objection, Mr. Jacobs, if you've got an opinion, I'm pretty sure I know what mine is.
Well, speaking as a member of the Libertarian Party, I believe it would be in order to do so. Basically because this is not, Ms. Harless's motion is in order. This is not actually an item of business. This is something dealing with effectively the order of business. You're creating a continuation in effect of something that was already done. So I think you could do it. If there was an agenda, it would take a 2/3 vote or a majority of the entire membership. You didn't actually adopt an agenda, and you do have a 2/3 vote and a majority of the, well, you don't have a majority of the entire membership, but you do have a 2/3 vote.
Mr. Brown, do you have any, does your opinion line up?
I concur with Mr. Jacobs.
Okay, if that's the case, then I will consider the motion in order and we can move on with public comment. I had that concern, but it's been assuaged. And then I see Mr. Chatterton, you have your hand up. Do you have a point of order?
No, that was just to be recognized after this is finished, same point as earlier.
Okay, so you want 2 minutes to speak for closing public comment?
After this, before we adjourn, I was seeking the floor.
Mr. Jacobs?
I think Mark Hinkle was first, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't.
Well, no, we would raise our hand. So Mr. Jacobs has his hand up first. I would recognize Mr. Jacobs before I would. Of course, it's up to the chair because he's the chair, not the secretary.
I would actually yield to Mr. Hinkle.
Well,
Thank
so
you. May I speak, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address the body. I am very delighted with the renewed interest in membership and fundraising As someone who has raised over $1 million as a volunteer for all three levels of the Libertarian Party, plus the International Alliance of Libertarian Parties, I am very much delighted in the new venue. Something, Steve, and I have for you as a suggestion. When I was chair, 2010 to 2012, I asked Robert Kraus to give me a list every month of people who contributed $1,000 or more. And I'd like to tell you a little short story about one of them, Florida, by the way, who I called up and just said, "Hi, this is Mark Hinkle, chair of the Libertarian Party. I want to congratulate you and thank you for your donation of $1,000. This one donor said, "So you're not asking for more money, you just want to say thanks?" I said, "Yeah, I just want to say thanks. We really appreciate your support." And he said, "Well, if I offered you more money, would you take it?" And I said, "Well, Mark, yeah, sure, I would." Chatted a little bit, got his credit card information, about to wrap up the call. And let's call him George. George says, "So, Mark, how much are you going to ask me for?" And I said, "Oh, Mark, you idiot. You should always have a goal in mind." And he said, "Whatever you're comfortable with." He said, "No, you ask me a dollar amount." I said, "Well, George, you gave 1,000 before. I'll probably ask you for 1,000. He said, "No, Mark, put me down for 5." And that is my suggestion for you, Stephen. Say thank you to your donors as chair. It will be well rewarded.
I'll definitely keep that in mind and take it to heart. Thank you very much, Mr. Hinkle. Next up is Mr. Jacobs, and then Mr. Malagon, and Mr. Chatterton. Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for recognizing me. I will try to be very brief. In dealing with the bylaws committee, while I think that their previous report was quite good and had a number of good suggestions, I also think that there have been some things that have come up that maybe need to be looked at, and that it shouldn't just be limited to what those old recommendations were, even though they may be readopted. I'm thinking about things relating specifically to disciplinary actions and things that have come up within the last 6 months to a year that maybe do need to be added to that. That is all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Malaga.
Mr. Chair, I object to being leaped over again for being recognized.
Well, he named the order and my hand was up. So
my hand was lowered by someone else. I didn't lower my hand.
All right, hold on. I thought you wanted to be recognized after the public comment because you mentioned that before, but then you raised your hand during public comment. So I figured you want to be recognized now. So it was a little unclear.
Yeah,
so we'll
if there's no more public comment, then I would be the next to speak before Mr. Malagon.
Well, no, this is public comment. I raised my hand for public comment.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned to be raised effort. So I'll just go Mr. Malagon since he had his hand up, and then I'll recognize you right after.
I assumed with Mr. Chatterton, I mean, he can go before me. I don't know how you would speak after public comment. There's nothing on the agenda for that. So his comment would be public comment. If he wants to speak now, he can. I raised my hand for public comment, which I assumed Mr. Chatterton would be speaking for.
A point of order.
If there's not going to be a motion made in Mr. Malagon's speech, then I wouldn't object, but
why would there be a motion during public comment? I don't understand.
All right, I withdraw my objection then, and I'll speak after him.
Please direct your comments towards the chair. Mr. Malagon and Mr. Chatterton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first and foremost, I guess I'll say I am glad that with the EPCC there was I'll just say that I'm glad to hear that there was a consensus regarding Mr. Heiss's now lack of employment. So just so that everyone is very clear as to what happened earlier, Mr. Heiss is no longer a contractor for the LNC. So those of you who said that you would donate when Mr. Heiss was no longer being paid by the LNC, it's time to make good on that. And I'm going to send some emails out and send some texts and make some phone calls to those of you that said that you would wait until that happened. So that was effective today, as the chair made clear earlier today. I'd also like to just point out really quickly, Mr. Hinkle never raised $1 million, but that's a great story. And I love fiction as much as the next person, so that was fun. That was definitely worth doing public comment over. That was time well spent. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chatter.
All right. Thank you. I would like to kind of correct the record on two fronts now, I guess. So as was just brought up and as was mentioned earlier in the call, that the separation with Mr. Heiss had been a bilateral decision. I can directly confirm that that was not a bilateral decision. So apparently the chair and the EPCC are not on the same page on that at the moment, but
Mr. Chair, I'm going to
I'll
object
leave
to
that out
talking
to,
about this much about staff issues.
I'll leave that up to be sorted out between the chair and the EPCC since their stories are different at this time.
All right. Anybody else?
I'd like to go again, Mr. Chair, if that's all right.
How much time we have for public comment? 10 minutes?
2 minutes. I think I used 30 seconds. So if you'd allow me a minute 30, I've been keeping time as you suggested earlier today. So I promise I'm not extending myself any additional courtesies.
Go ahead, Mr. Milligan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, while we're on the fan fiction thing, Mr. Chatterton, comes in with fan fiction, and that's brilliant. And I love that he's sticking up for his guy. It's very loyal. He'll get a lot out of it, I'm sure. But I do appreciate that the chair took an evaluation of the EPCC's evaluation of contractors and staff, and that he made the appropriate decision along with Mr. Heiss. It was a mutual parting. As someone on the EPCC, I can say that. So I thank the chair for his candor regarding that matter and other matters. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much, Mr. Chair.
All right. Let's see. Miss Robinson, go ahead.
It's actually Robson, but thank you. I just wanted to say that Mr. Hinkle has in fact raised probably $1 million for the party with all of his different machinations in the party, as chair of California, as chair of the National Party, and as well as chair of the International Alliance of Libertarians. To say he is not fair to him. He has been a member since the inception of the party almost, and I take exception to that. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would
Next time in public comment,
30
get
seconds,
Mr.
Mr.
Boxing
Chair.
Glove.
I would like
No,
I have 30 seconds left of public comment. I'd like to say
no.
that everything that Ms. Robson said is absolutely ridiculous. And
I think it's just ended now. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yeah. So moved.
I will move
All
to
right.
adjourn. Yes.
Please. Up for a motion in a second. Any objection to adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.